SARA DIETSCHY, welcome to the podcast.
John, thank you so much for having me.
Today is another day for the Progress Daily Show, and I'm going to try my best not to be the silliest that I could possibly be because I am with one of my favorite people on this planet.
One of your favorite people?
Yeah, probably like fourth.
Me?
Okay. So, if you don't know SARA DIETSCHY, I probably already gave an intro talking about you a little bit, but one thing that I haven't mentioned in the intro is that SARA DIETSCHY is technically my girlfriend.
What's up with all these words?
And metaphorically.
Your fourth favorite person, technically your girlfriend.
I'm trying to throw you into a loop.
Do we need to like sign some type of agreement so we're on the same page with things?
Yes, I need this to settle in your mind so that it can stew for an hour so that we can have some serious conversations afterwards.
All right. So basically what you're saying is we're going to reevaluate our entire relationship after this podcast?
Depending on how well it goes.
Depending on how it goes. Okay.
Exactly. So there's a quote that I heard about you the other day. Somebody said something about you, and it wasn't bad, but I thought it would add some light as to who you are and sort of your response to it. But somebody said,
so nervous.
Somebody said, "Oh, SARA DIETSCHY, she's like the best businesswoman that I've ever seen on this planet. I've never heard anyone as smart as she is." Somebody said that the other day.
God,
Why
who
do you
said
think
that?
My mom?
Aww.
Yeah, my mom said that.
Mrs. Hill.
So why do you think that my mom, after knowing you for, I don't know, 2 days, thought that?
I'm not sure. Maybe I think a lot in this world has to do with confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe my ability to just be real, like my real self in a short amount of time lends to a certain amount of confidence that kind of translates all sectors of life. And
Do you consider yourself a confident person?
Yes, I do.
Hmm.
I do. I think I grew up in a household with parents that were always kind of like being my cheerleaders. They were super supportive, but they also were very practical with me. And so they always support my dreams, but then they always had serious talks with me. You know, okay, Sarah, you want to quit basketball, but why do you want to quit basketball? Let's talk about this. Okay, you're into music. Interesting, music. Okay, guitar, you really want to go all in on that? Okay. All right, cool. Let's do this, you know.
Do you think that's how you would talk to your child? Would you be like, or would you be all like,
well,
yes?
Honestly, okay, that maybe I didn't do justice because Jeannie was always the one like, heck yeah, I believe in you, support you 100%. So they weren't always like, ah.
Were they yin and yang?
I wouldn't, a little
They
bit.
were yin and yang.
Yeah.
Almost the same, but slightly
in
different.
terms of my mom and my dad. What was cool about my mom is she was just like always there, whether it was a basketball game or a show playing guitar on stage. She was always there in the crowd cheering me on. So it was nice that I felt like I always had some type of support system. And I think that carries into your adult life when it comes to confidence.
I think so too.
Mm-hmm.
You're a boss, a female.
Biatch.
Wow.
I'm a
Okay.
That's a good song. And I'm sorry, parents, if I did you wrong by saying like, I didn't mean it in that way. I just meant that they were practical as well as very supportive.
Right.
So if I wanted to go on American Idol and be a singing contestant, they would have very confidently been like, no.
Because they knew you were a terrible singer?
Yes.
I've heard you sing as well, though. I think if you practice enough, you could succeed in it. So, Sarah, you are in a male-dominated world. You're in tech. And there seems to be a lot of prepubescent feelings coming on into the comments, and you're sort of just in this world of a lot of trolls and males. First of all, how does that feel? Second of all, tell us the story about you always being in the situations that are male-dominated.
Yes.
Because I know.
Yes. I grew up playing boys baseball. So when I was in 5th grade, this kind of goes back to my mom always being like, yeah, you want to do it? Let's do it. I was playing with a girls softball team when I was 4 years old. And I legit was like, these girls suck.
Sexist.
Mom, put me in the big league. Put me on with the boys. Because
Wow.
that's where real stuff was going on.
Okay.
And so at the age of like 5, I started playing boys baseball, and I played boys baseball all the way through 5th grade, I think. And then when it came around middle school, I was like, okay, maybe I should try softball again. But that was kind of the beginning of being, just having, I hate that interests are so divided in between just like sexes, like, oh, that's a male thing or that's a female thing. Hopefully we can get more and more away from that. But as a kid, and still, I have very, very male interest. And so whether it was baseball, then I played basketball, and then I was a guitar player. Loved guitar, and I was a big gearhead, so I loved the amps and the pedals and stuff. And I really got into photo video, and specifically video when it comes to editing and filming and carrying gear around. It still seems like it's a very male dominated field. So I've always been able to kind of I've been used to kind of being in those circumstances. And so when it comes to comments or whatever, honestly, most of the people who are just trolling, it's super easy to just not take that into an account. The comments that are really bad in terms of, oh, you should like get back into the kitchen and blah, blah, blah. All that stuff is just like, okay, this is like a 13-year-old who, obviously hasn't had any, how should I put this, had any diversification of women in his life, right, who he's seen in unique roles. And so I think that's helped me now be where I am in kind of the more male dominated, fields. I'm comfortable in it.
Yeah, but what's the difference between you and the majority of other women who aren't interested in these things? How come you were the one that was like, baseball,
honestly, bro? I think it had a lot to do with my mom. She was always like, yeah, you want to do it? Go for it. Like, she never put certain standards or certain things on me. Like, she never said, no, Sarah, baseball's for boys, softball's for girls. You got to stay in softball. She was like, okay, let's do it. Why not?
You saw it, though. You saw that all the females were doing one thing and the guys were doing one thing.
Right. I guess just from a young age, I've always just been attracted to what is the most competitive atmosphere, what's going to be the funnest thing for me, and what is going to challenge me as a human. And that's always kind of what I've paid attention to.
Are you still hecka competitive?
Oh yeah, so competitive. I don't think it comes out as much because when I was in high school, whether it was school and grades, I was super competitive with that. I was, competitive around the 10 people above me and below me in the class rank. I graduated like rank 36 out of like 550. And I was like, I have to graduate in this like top 6% to get the scholarship I need. So in that sense, I was super competitive. When I was playing basketball, I was very competitive because winning is fun, And I think it shapes you as a human. I think you do need to learn how to lose, because I've had a ton of failures in my life, but I don't even consider them failures because I've learned to just move on to the next thing, I think. I feel like I'm the best, guys.
No.
I hate
No,
Sorry.
I think in this whole thing that female representation is extremely important. And I feel like you're doing a really good job of representing all the females out there, especially with all these.
And I always say I have that unfair advantage of I've always been in the boys club type deal.
Why do you think that's unfair?
Because, or maybe it's not unfair. I don't know. Like, you can go the whole Jordan Peterson route and be like, oh, if you're, there's biological difference, and if you don't like that stuff, then sorry. I was just kind of in it from the get-go. And I don't think a lot of women, I don't know if this is like sexist for me to say, but I don't think a lot of women are wired the same way as I am. It just like is what it is. And so if they're not interested in man stuff like video or video games, that's a big thing. Although there's a lot of awesome women Twitch streamers who are crushing it right now. But if they're not interested in historically those like male dominated fields, then you do leave some opportunities on the table if you're not maybe we'll just use the example of like the golf course. You know, business doesn't just happen in between the walls of your office. Business happens on the golf course and the basketball court. So when all the bros are playing 5-on-5, 6 a.m. before work, they're probably talking about work stuff, and they're probably forming those relationships that transfer over into the workspace. So that can be a very natural thing that you don't think about, but it does affect relationships and how you think of people in the workplace. And oh man, yeah, Bob, we've been playing basketball and I love that dude, and like, screw it, I'm not gonna like hold interviews, let's just promote Bob because he's my bud.
How would you as a woman put yourself in those situations to be always in it?
Man, I
feel like you do.
I
feel like
do.
I've seen you in those situations. Yeah.
I do, because I truly enjoy a lot of those like activities and things. So I think it is hard. I think I think other people have to actually put an effort towards making these environments just as inclusive as possible. So, you know, maybe it's like, okay, we're going to have a team basketball game, 5-on-5, 5 girls, 5 boys or something, or like just some, you know, I don't have all the answers, and I think people are becoming more understanding as time goes on. But yeah, I think just kind of like assessing your surroundings and who are the people that you're working with and doing life with, and like, is that representative of like your industry, the world that you're living in. If you have a product that is a universal product, you know, it's not just a man product or a woman product, well, 50% of your audience is going to be a woman.
So even if your staff is 80% males, then you should make an attempt at making it seem like it's 50-50.
I mean, I don't know, because I normally don't talk about this, and I think there's arguments for both. Like, right. you need to pick the person who's better for the job, like, right. Period.
And there's
right?
a huge issue with equality of outcome.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk about, yeah.
Exactly. And you have to pick the right person for the job, hands down. However, you have to put an effort towards equal opportunity, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so where I think that happens is, I think that happens in the classroom. I think it happens when, you know, these kids who are now growing up. That's why I think it's so cool that there's a ton of organizations pushing women towards code. They really haven't. There really hasn't had this. Like, maybe it's not super appealing to women right now, because I was like one of 2 girls in my electrical engineering coding class, you know, and I dug it when I was doing it, but maybe there's just that stereotype that maybe doesn't allow them to get into that, but they might love it. So why not encourage women right now in school when they're 5 years old? Encourage everyone, you know, right. Like, coding is a really important skill that's going to empower you like to have a really important, meaningful career. Right. So I think once you start encouraging everyone like equally in school and when they're young. You think there's an issue with that right now? Like, I don't know. I just think that's where the focus should be. And then hopefully in 10 years, then you're going to have that equal spread of people who are like going for those jobs and stuff. And then you can just pick the right person for the right job, and hopefully it evens out. Because I think it is really hard to say, like, to set quotas and stuff. Like, mm-hmm. I don't think that's right at all, because like, you have, at the end of the day, you got to get the job done. Mm-hmm. Right. But I think a lot of, not just like organizations in school, but a lot of big companies are putting forth really cool initiatives to just like make sure everyone has that equal opportunity when the time comes. So I think it does start younger. Right. It does seem that way too, but there's probably definitely some holes in how everything's working with business and stuff. There's probably still missed opportunity for a lot of people. Yeah. And, you know, at what point do you say it is what it is, you know? And right. I think a really interesting guy, I feel like people either completely hate Jordan Peterson or love Jordan Peterson. I'll watch one of his videos and I'll be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And I'll watch another one. I'll be like, it's kind of douchey. Yeah. I'll just be like, what? That way. Well, me and you have very interesting conversations because you know, we do go into the whole women. You're a woman. I'm a woman. It's one of my favorite things about you. Oh, okay. Yeah. And I'm a minority technically, but we always sort of go into the details about our opportunities based on that. I feel like. Yeah, and I think one of the most interesting videos we've watched recently of Jordan Peterson is how he was just stating facts, where like the world we've lived in has historically been a male dominated run world, right? And there are certain biological factors in men that prioritize power and dominance and like just going and getting things,
being
argumentative and really like, you know, being that executive. And if that means screw your family and never see your wife and kids and have your meetings from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. and sleep 4 hours of sleep, and that's what it takes to be that executive, I guess, you know, traditionally men have been willing to make that sacrifice. And then Jordan's argument was like, you know, women are actually smarter because they have a better sense of balance or whatever.
Or sense of overall happiness. What's going to make them happier?
Exactly. Right? And so it's like, okay, if that's what it takes to be executives, hell yeah, there are women who their goal in life isn't just to have kids.
Right.
Like they can do that, hands down. Yes, there's going to be women like that. But his argument is we don't know what the world looks like as the opposite. We've always known this like male dominated world, right? And like it seems like, oh, everything's fine, I guess, but why would we change it? Like it would take a huge shift because we just don't understand what the world would be like if it was opposite, if all the CEOs were women, if you know. And so it's not like one is better than the other. We just like don't know.
I don't think there's going to be a huge shift. I think it's just going to seep in.
Yeah. And I think that's a good thing. I truly think. And it's like it goes back to kind of what Gary always says. I mean, I always bring
Gary
up Gary V up in the office.
That was your first interview, by the way. That was really good.
Yeah, that was my first podcast interview. I always say he's like the most memeable person ever, and I make fun of him all the time. But at the same time, I like adore him. I really do. I get super inspired by him, and
then I laugh at him too.
Exactly, and he has actually like fundamentally changed how I think about things and how I think about business. But his big thing is just self-awareness, right? And so I think everyone has to have self-awareness in terms of like what they want from life. Like right now, I'm super focused on work, and I want to hustle and grind, and I want to build, but I'm also very self-aware that like I want kids, I want to be a mom. So when that time comes, you know, we'll figure it out then, but you just have to be like self-aware of those things. And hopefully as a society, we get to a point where it's maybe not easier. Well, it's more accepted to be a mom or to even be a dad, you know, like maternity leave and just parental leave in general. And, you know, freaking kid care, child care is so expensive. Kid care. That sounds cooler than child care. Yeah. I think there is a lot of room for improvement on all of those things. But yeah, this is interesting. I guess we're like taking this conversation that we always have in between ourselves that I never talk about online.
It's a touchy subject. That's
why because there's going to be people in the comments on both sides being like, blah, blah, blah,
well, that's
blah.
what's interesting is that you are hella female, and when we have these conversations, we try to be very factual about it, and I think we try to be very open about it. And the thing about someone like Jordan Peterson is I think he makes every attempt at doing that as well. But sometimes it's
But he's a white male, so people discount his opinion, which isn't fair in a lot of circumstances, but people see that talking from a place of privilege, right?
Right. If you're a white male at all, it comes off as privilege. But for you, have you always had this much focus into work as opposed to family? Have you ever, when you were younger, were you like, I can't wait to have a family and be married and all that stuff? Or were you always just like, work?
I've always been super determined in whatever I was doing, whether it was sports or music or what have you. School, I was very focused on like getting good grades so I could get a scholarship because college ain't free, yo. You know what I'm saying? But in high school, and I think it had to do with my surroundings and like my involvement in like the church I was at and just the people what they were doing there, it just seemed like, okay, you get married super young, you start popping out kids, and you just like work at the church. And so that was legitimately like something in the back of my head that I was like, okay, I guess, you know, whatever. I'll go to college. I'll find a husband in college. I'll get married, and then I'll just be like a Jeannie to kids. You know, Jeannie's my mom, and she's epic. And I still love being her daughter, but one of the best parts about just childhood was just having an awesome mom. And so for a while, that was my goal. I was like, I just want to be a sick stay-at-home mom. Watch out, world.
So you did plan.
I'm going to raise dope kids. And I really didn't
have your little time.
Yeah, but then my first year of college, I started doing a lot of video stuff and just started being way more creative in every aspect of my life.
When did that start?
I would say after I graduated high school. And honestly, it had a lot to do with visiting New York City when I graduated. I was like, oh, wait, there's more places in the suburbs of Dallas.
And that's
like,
what sparked
out
your
in the
interest
world.
in filmmaking?
Or that's what just kind of was a piece of, oh, there's more out there. Like,
yeah, right.
It's not just like my bubble in Texas.
That's actually how I felt too when I went to New York for the first time. I went in 8th grade. And when I went there, I was like,
it's just amazing, right?
Especially because you're from
Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas.
But specifically Grapevine.
Right,
so
smaller town outside of Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, although it's a pretty big town. It's one of the biggest suburbs of Dallas. So if you've ever been to DFW Airport, you've been like close to where I live.
All over it.
Yeah. So yeah, it was one of those things I was like, oh, there's different people in this world who live differently, and that's interesting. And there's this city life where people use the subway to get from point A to point B, and electric skateboards. What? That's exciting. You know, that's fun.
So your first visits would spark the whole, I'm going to do something crazy and big and different and move out of this town.
It definitely like put that seed in my brain of I want something more. And I'm not saying like, if you want to go to college, get married, and have kids, and that be your life, more power to you. But I think we are living in a world where it's becoming more acceptable to, like, not look out for yourself, but like self-care is important, and following your dreams is important.
Right. Because
if you hate what you're doing, you're stuck with kids, like your kids are going to feel that. Your kids are going to feel that, like, oh, you gave up on your dreams to like take care of them. And like, who wants that burden on them, you know? And I think being a parent is the most judged profession ever. And so I think the first most important thing you have to do is like make sure you're happy with yourself. And parenting and the nuclear family, the ideal, you know, family was very like much so one thing. But then all of our kids that, you know, all of us 90 kids, all of 50% of our parents were like divorced.
Right.
So it's like
much different for our kids than it was for us
so
too.
it's like something has to, I don't know what the answer is. Maybe it is some people being less selfish and some people being more selfish, and making sure that they have their self in check before they have kids, and also having the self-awareness. It's okay not to have kids.
Right.
I feel like some people have to like hear that too. Because I think some people get sucked into going to an expensive college, getting debt for that, marrying a person and going into debt for the wedding, and then going into debt to put a down payment on your house, and then going into debt to buy that fancy car. And then, okay, the next step is having kids, which are just like little debt holes themselves.
Yeah, they're horrible.
It just seems very normal to like be in debt for everything.
I know.
And like maybe it's like a very privileged thing for me to like talk about, because I didn't have, like, I had the privilege in high school to have a roof over my head, and my mom cooked, and there was always food on the table. So if I wanted anything, if I wanted a new guitar or if I wanted a video camera, I just had to like go and work, and then I could spend that money on that stuff. I didn't have to spend money on like, yeah, but I think that's something that my parents did really well. And that's like teaching me, oh, if you want something, sick, but we're not going to give you the money.
That's awesome.
Like, you need to go babysit or something. Like, which babysitting? I feel bad for dudes and men that they can't babysit really. I mean, they can, but that's one of those things. You know, equal opportunity for male babysitters. Let's do it, guys.
Was that a debate when you were younger?
No, it just all like it just seemed. Oh my God, Sean!
Just mine and yours. I'm so sorry.
Sean, Sean just spilled so much water everywhere.
Well, it's not really. I mean, we can't really do anything about it.
Oh my
napkins.
God!
Don't worry. I got 3 napkins. Don't worry.
Well, hold on.
We're back. I'm sorry. I spilled water all over the place because I'm a
cutie.
Thank you so much. Okay. I want to hear this. I want to hear the raw version of this story because I've heard it in person multiple times, and I know that you have this anger, this distaste for college.
Oh.
Right. And you even said to me one time that you would like to go around and talk to colleges about.
I would love when I'm at a time in my life that I have more experience and I'm able to sit down for like 6 months or maybe even a year and just really research stuff and talk to people and understand more of the financial side of things. I would love to go on a college or a high school tour, letting students know that they have options, that it's not even about like not going to college. It's about being just super smart with where you go to college. You don't have to spend $30,000 a year to go to USC or an out-of-state school. I'm thinking of USC in California. It's a really fancy school,
right? Not
University of South Carolina.
Still pretty fancy.
Yeah, which I'm sure it's 40,000.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it could honestly, University of South California, or is that what it stands
Southern
for?
California.
Southern California. If you don't have any scholarships and you're out of state, that can be like 60 grand a year with housing. Like, what?
Who makes that much?
Dude, I don't even know. They don't. That's the point. They all take out loans, and it is so silly because for the people who care about college and want to go to college and maybe have a harder time with scholarships, like community college is a much more affordable option. But for people who are creatives, even businessmen and women, you could just read a lot of books, go apprentice for someone, and be so light years ahead of anyone else. I think the creative world, the business world is a very relationally driven world. I think it rewards hard work. It rewards you being there, just being where the action is happening. So if you want to be a entertainer, an actor, you want to produce scripted content, you want to do films, you move to LA. If you want to be in a diverse, creative business scene where things are popping, things are happening, you're not necessarily just entertainment driven, move to New York City. If you want to make country music videos for the rest of your life for country artists, move to Nashville. Like, right. I think it does. The internet has been this magical thing where if you do have a niche and you're good at it and you're good with it, you can create wherever you want. I think that's the beauty of the internet. But if you're looking in more of these kind of like just traditionally, you know, like these traditional markets, or if you're looking to learn, like if you're still a student, I think it does matter you being in these places. New York, LA, Nashville, even Dallas has a cool scene for certain things. I think it does matter for learning, and then you can go wherever you want and do what you want. And yeah, I just like, people think that loans are free money, and it's not. It's not free money. You are going to live life with this insane
like so
burden.
Many of our friends.
Like, and I never want this to come off as like me on my high horse, because like I had to make those decisions. I wanted to move to Nashville, Tennessee. My friends were there. I was obsessed with it. I loved music. I wanted to be there. My parents were like, well, you're not dropping out of college. You got to continue college. I was like, oh, fine. And so by that time I like ran out of scholarship money, and I literally had like $15K in the bank in my college account. But up until that point, I was on a scholarship, so I wasn't spending a ton of money every year. And I was staying at home to save money in Texas. And I went to Belmont University, which is a private school in Nashville, Tennessee. And I was attracted to it just because there was a lot of music people there, but I was still pursuing a computer science degree. So I was like, okay, I'll check this out.
What were your plans with computer science?
Just to like have a 6-figure job. Cool. Like, I wasn't passionate about it. That's why I dropped out eventually. one semester that I didn't even finish cost $15,000. So when I still had a year and a half left of school, I was faced with this decision. I either go into debt for something that is my plan B and I don't even like and rack up $45,000 in debt, or I drop out, I have a clean slate and just fudging hustle my face off and try to pursue what I love in video. And luckily it worked out. Sick.
It did.
But I just think it's important for people to know that they have options. Like, take a fudging gap year, go work. Like, this isn't me saying like, go live in the desert and like find yourself.
Well, you have to
for your because
yourself.
because for that's like the privilege route of like, okay, you have money to travel, like whatever. If your parents are rich and they work hard to get to that money, then whatever, like embrace it. You know, that's awesome. Go live in the desert for a year and find yourself if you can do that. But that's not the case for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have no idea what you want to do, work for a year.
Right.
Move to Paris, move to London, and work.
I think a lot of people have an idea by that time of what they like doing.
Yeah, and then go work in that field.
Right. And then in 10 years or so, this conversation is going to be much different. In 10 years, it's going to be a lot more of maybe you shouldn't go to college at all. Let me try to think of reasons why you would go. It's going to be harder to come up with reasons why you should go, which it already kind of
Nothing is going to change until the banks change and the schools change. Like, the reason why it has become so inflated and so ridiculous, I feel like it's similar to the housing bubble when that burst, is because people, like, banks are giving out so much money in loans. And so if they're giving out unlimited money to people, then all of these schools don't have a cap of what to set their prices at. So there's no like basic law of supply and demand. So if anyone can draw a lot of money from the banks, well then heck yeah, we're going to jack our prices up, you know, $5,000 every year, every 2 years, because why not? People can get out loans. So all the schools are just like banking on this money. And like the fact that these universities are so driven by profit just like makes me sick. Yay capitalism. I love like money sick, but education, especially with the internet, I think it should be like the most democratized thing like ever. I think everyone should have, you know, this right to education, but at the same time, don't tweet me hating me. I don't think the Bernie Sanders, everyone should have college for free is right either. Because, well, who's going to pay for that? You can't just say that when the whole system is screwed up. I think it has to like, something has to happen where it just fundamentally collapses and we have to start over. Like the banks have to be on board with being good people. Do you think that's going to happen? Yeah. No. So it's like, I don't have the answers, but hopefully something changes.
Well, I think we're all going to be working for ourselves eventually, or most people will be. And I think school sort of just teaches you how to work for somebody else. I don't think, I mean, what in school prepares you to work for yourself? Because if you want to be, because you have to go to school for what, medical, any kind of engineer, but all those jobs leads to working for yourself. The part where you switch the job into being your own business is the part that you don't learn in school.
I think it does, and I will say the opposing view too of, you know, some of my friends who I've talked to who had a great college experience. They're glad they went. I think a big thing about college, or maybe even high school's gotten so advanced these days, is that it provides you with like a diverse set of skills and viewpoints. You learn how to, you know, maybe you're a math science geek, but you would never take an English class ever because you hate it. But guess what? Writing is important no matter what field you're in. So having those English classes that you're forced to write and read and stuff, that is going to be beneficial to you. And who knows, maybe that elective that you don't want to take is actually going to lead to like your new passion. You never know. But I think high school has gotten so advanced nowadays to where they are offering you a very wide variety of courses and just you know, like options, whether it's like automotive or audio video. And, you know, again, so I guess it really starts with having money in these like public schools too, in the middle schools and high schools, and in the places that are underprivileged. Are they having the same things that these rich districts are having and stuff? And I don't know, this is getting into like a whole more of a political,
really, really deep,
yeah,
right.
Like I hate politics, and I think I grew up talking a lot of politics, and I know like we talk about it a lot,
Right.
but it's something that I really don't like talking about publicly, just because like I don't have the answers, and I feel like I shouldn't talk about it without like having the answers, and I don't think it's like really my place right now. Maybe in 10 years I'm gonna like build a business and be good and like satiate that, and then maybe I'll go into like, you know, vouching for educational stuff and stuff. But that's just like right now I want to help people live their best creative life the way I can do that through my YouTube channel, through my socials. And if I can do that, I'm good right now. And then I'm going to, you know, I'm going to have these meaningful conversations, whether they're political or whatever, just one-on-one with people. I'm going to hear people's stories because I'm still learning. You know, you have to be able to listen as much as you talk to really have a viewpoint worth having.
I agree. I think all the knowledge is going to come from having as many interesting conversations as you can with as many people as you can. But unfortunately, it falls short with you. Just kidding. I love you.
Most people just scream at each other on Facebook. So that's...
Yeah, we can do that. Or, I mean, on Twitter as well. Twitter's the opposite side of it, though.
Facebook and Twitter. Twitter...
Right, left.
Twitter is the, like, liberal bubble. Facebook is the conservative bubble. And they're both so toxic.
It's exhausting. Yeah. The best mindset to have going into those is just try to have empathy for the other side. If someone disagrees with you, just try to figure it out. But you know what? Let's get on a light-hearted subject.
Let's do it. This has been intense.
It has been intense. First of all, how much do you love having a boyfriend? I'm just kidding. Don't answer that yet. We're going to get into
that,
that,
love you.
We are going to get into that.
So much.
But I wanted to ask about the things that you do right now because there's a lot in your list. Because I'm with you all the time. And you do like 15,000 different jobs, I feel like. What's your favorite thing to do? What's like the most fun? Like, I love skateboarding the best. What's your skateboarding?
Probably editing.
Yeah.
Which makes me sad because I feel like I've gotten so busy nowadays. I think that gets put on the back burner a lot. I love making the story in the edit. I think that's what makes like
making the story as in like filming and documenting.
Yeah, so I'm very used to in like the documentary filmmaking side of things where you're forming more of the story in the edit, where you have a general idea of what you want, but a lot of what you're doing is being shaped by questions you're asking to people and interviewing, or maybe some spontaneous B-roll that happens. And I love, maybe not every second of editing just because it can get a lot, but I truly love that finished product. And like after you spent 10 hours on an edit and you watch back and you're stoked on it and a cool story is told, nothing is more satisfying than that. So I think editing definitely, but as I've been getting busier, I have to put more of an effort towards protecting that block of time. Because once you start having phone calls and meetings and people who want to get lunch and coffee, that so messes up your flow. With editing, you have to have a solid 5 to 6 hours to even get going. So
it's important for you to keep that 5 or 6 hours to edit, or just to keep that 5 or 6 hours for creativity?
To edit, for sure. Yeah.
So
because I think that's what sparks the most creativity in what I do is just like keep making videos and keep hanging out with cool people, but being very selective with my time, with like who I am hanging out with and stuff.
I was actually going to ask a question about this. So in your videos, you're always like, what's up? This is my new friend, Jeremy. This is my new friend, Samantha. This is my new friend, Carly Kloss.
Yep. I'm best friends with Carly, guys.
It's not a big deal or anything. Trust me.
Carly Kloss, if you're out there, just shoot me a text, girl.
Might as well. What happens to your old friends? To the people who were in your life?
Oh, my friends are...
You moved to... What? They're died. You moved to New York City, so I mean, that's like a, I was gonna say an easy way to lose connection to friends. I don't mean to make it like a thing that should be easy, but you fall out of contact. But how do you deal with that? Because that's a way bigger problem for a lot of people than I think that you and I realize. Is that there are people that are attached to them, and it's really hard for them to let them go. That's why people don't move all the time.
Right.
So 2 questions. What let you leave having friends, having close people, knowing your family was there? What let you be like, bye everyone, I'm going to go do this adventure? And sort of like, how do you combat the issue with maybe old friends being like, hey, what's up, man? We haven't talked in a while, blah, blah, blah.
I was super ready to get out of Texas, and there were so many like beautiful souls and creative people there that I
Thanks.
Definitely not you. You didn't live in Texas. Well, you did live in Texas.
I did when I was 5. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you are a beautiful soul, but
Thank you.
not from Texas. I think like I had a lot of cool friendships there and relationships, but I think certain people are like there for you for life, and if they are able to understand where like what your priorities are and how, you know, things are busy, and if our relationship is like a few texts every 6 months. I just sneeze.
Gross. Don't do it.
If our relationship is a few texts every 6 months, then like that's what it is, you know. And I've traditionally had a few very close friends, and then everyone else who I consider my friends are just like creative collaborators that are on the same wavelength as me. They want to create, and that's how we hang out. I very rarely have friendships of just like, hey, let's just hang out. Like I don't hang out. I create stuff with people. And so people who are able to get on board with that and like are stoked to create, and that's the way we hang out, and we make videos, we take pictures, we just like create stuff, then those are the people who I'm hanging out with, and it's awesome. And I think if I can really get on board with people who are just striving for something, anything, it's really sad to see someone who like they want something, but they're just like not taking the necessary risks or steps to get there. And
that's the hardest part. There's so many friends like that.
Yeah. So, and it's like what can you do? You know, that can be one of your relationships that like you say what's up every now and then, and like maybe you get lunch once a year, but that's that. And you know, if on their end they're upset with that, then sometimes you just gotta like drop it like it's hot, which is like sad. But also, I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. Again, I had like 3 or 4 really close friends. My mom was definitely always in that group of people. But outside of that, I didn't go to parties. I didn't hang out with people after school unless it was like with my band and we were like jamming and stuff.
Right. So you've always kind of just kicked it with the people who were
creating,
helping you progress and creating.
And yeah, right. Like they were helping me, I was helping them, and it like nothing is more fun than creating with someone.
Right. And usually people who create also, they empathize with you as well. So when you're maybe moving on because you're in a different place and you have to take certain risk and go out there,
they can be like, heck yeah,
right,
pound it, I'll see you next year for a 30-minute coffee date. Exactly. And that's that.
And it's perfect. And it's fun when that happens.
And I love people who can be okay with that.
Well, here's something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, but people who are very successful, it seems like in the conversations, they're always talking about like, yeah, dude, like you got to say no. You got to say no to things. You got to make sure that you have your time and you do what you do. But here's the thing. I feel like most people listening want to get to the position of being busy and saying no.
Like you have to say yes until you have to say no.
Right.
Basically.
But practically, how did you go from filmmaking, making a couple videos, to now having to turn down meetings, having to turn down brand deals sometimes? People want to just
a lot of times.
Right. People just want to get to that position. And
I always said yes.
You always said yes to every situation.
I always said yes.
Everything that happened was serendipity from there?
Yeah, 100%. When you were like moving and shaking and you're going to conferences, you're shaking hands, you're just hanging out with people and continually creating and not sleeping and just going. I mean, that was me from 7th grade when I discovered guitar and basketball through when I dropped out. And like a year after that, like when I turned 22, like just recently, and with meeting you too.
The band?
Man. Just recently, and it was kind of like on par with like meeting you, I did take a conscious effort of taking more time to like enjoy life, you know?
Why is that though? Because you know when we met, we're both crazy.
Yeah.
And when we met,
and I think we still are.
Right.
you know, but or maybe it kind of did level out in terms of like the fact that we just like hang out with each other all the time.
Yeah,
and so
we don't feel empty or
maybe
lonely. We're
yeah,
like,
maybe that just takes the place of like maybe us hanging out with our friends every now and then in the past. Just you say yes until you're dead and you haven't slept, and
right.
and then the opportunities come knocking on your door. It's a lot of output and just you going to places, shaking hands, offering things to people, you offering value to people, and then very quickly, if you're doing it right, if you are talented,
have something to show.
Yeah, if you have something unique and you're providing value to people, then those tables are going to turn, and you're going to then have to be on the defense, and that's when you have to start being okay with saying no to things. And I've always been, I am like, let me actually rephrase that. I was a yes person, a yes man, a yes woman to the things that mattered. But that means that I had to say no at the same time to so many things, like socially. Right. I didn't have friends. I didn't hang out. Oh, hey, so you want to come to the party now? No. And right. I got to a point where people stopped asking me. Because, like, you know, Sarah was that chick that's like, in high school, I'm sure, like, I wasn't, hopefully no one thought I was, like, super weird or something. But it was just kind of like a complacency towards me, to where it's like, we've asked her to do stuff so many times and she's fine, she has her own things, she doesn't need us, you know. And so there's not like this weird chip on my shoulder of like, oh, screw those guys, they screwed me over. Like, it just got to a point where I didn't care about them, so they really didn't care about me.
That's the same situation with me, right?
So you have to say yes to the right things and no to usually the socially accepted things,
right?
In terms of you have to hang out with friends like 5 hours a day, every day after school. Like,
yeah, which most people do. And
which most people do, but you don't have to if you love what...
No. Right. You focus on the thing that you like the most as well. Like when you were filmmaking, it's like every opportunity associated with that, you were looking it up. You were finding out which events dealt with that. You were figuring out who was where.
And I was just like volunteering.
Right. It's not just because like you can say yes, of course, but even building up to the yes requires you being in the circle of everything and having a talent to show off. I mean, you can go to those places and go to meetings. Like I think a lot of people will probably hear, let's say like a Tim Ferriss podcast, and their immediate thought is, I would love to have a conversation with this guy. I would love to. They meet him, and what do they say? They say, hey man, they're like, I don't think he cares about anything that I do because unless it's something that deals with his world. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. It's like, if you want to be a businessman or an investor or write a book, mm-hmm. then do something along those lines that make you in some way relatable to Tim Ferriss, and then tell him about it, and there's a conversation starter. But also offer, like, remember I was talking about, I would like to meet Tim Ferriss and just offer him like, I'll go to Austin for a week and offer to film and just make videos for him for free. And that's what you got to do. And you've done that a lot of times, I feel like, where you're like, I'll make a video for you. Like you say that you get nothing out of it, and they probably think that, but of course just being around those people is the significant privilege that you get.
Yeah, I mean, I was making videos for companies that I wanted to be paid to make videos, but they weren't paying me. They didn't like know who I was until I made a video. So like a couple examples are a company called EF College Break. Now they're EF Ultimate Break. I went on this sick trip to Greece with them. Shout out to my grandma and grandpa. That was my graduation present. Going to Greece that was a monumental moment.
Their links will be in the description down below.
Yeah, grandma, grandpa, follow them on Instagram. They're like Twitter. 85 years old. I should probably like call them at some point. I really don't talk to my grandparents as much as I should.
Yeah.
Call your grandparents. Yeah. Apparently I say no to everyone. EF College Break. That was something I was obsessed with traveling, and I loved making videos traveling at that point. And I was like, oh, wouldn't it be like the dream job to travel and make videos for companies like this? And so you best believe when I went on that Greece trip, I brought every single camera I owned.
So you went on the trip just as a person?
As a person. I paid the amount everyone else paid. I wasn't a social media person. I was just like a homie with my friend Chelsea. And, you know, it was like, okay, let's have an awesome time. But I'm also going to make the dopest video ever because I want to do this.
Did you have experience with filmmaking at all? Like, how did
you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I was making videos for my church. I was making music videos for my band.
Yeah, you were.
I was doing so much video
Links
stuff
in the description to that one rap you did.
No.
Oh, no?
No,
Okay, no, we don't have to talk about that.
And so after that trip, I made a video that I was so stoked on, and I was so proud of it. And I emailed it to them, and they tweeted it out, and they got back to me like, oh my God, this is such an amazing video. They shared it. This was like 1,000 subscribers, Sarah at the time. So having a company share my video on Twitter, it was like a big deal and all this stuff. And then come a year later, when I have a little bit more of an audience and more knowledge and skill, they hired me to make a video for them. And the same thing with Adobe. Like,
was that the first person that paid you to do a video for them?
No, I did wedding stuff before that too. Yeah, weddings suck. I mean, not weddings. Wedding filmmaking is for a very unique type of person.
Oh, wait, what? Are you saying not weddings? Weddings don't suck, but filmmaking for weddings suck?
I think weddings really do have the potential to suck.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because I've filmed weddings, and I think everything about it is so Pinteresty, but then the people could be so miserable during the process.
Every
and
time.
What is the point, you know?
Of the wedding?
Yeah, I just want to let's just find a dope rooftop in New
Yeah.
York, invite our family, maybe like 5 friends.
Who are you talking about? You and who?
John, will you marry me?
Oh, gosh. This is...
Woman power right here, guys.
You know,
Ask
honestly, I
your
don't feel
mans.
comfortable like this because my dad taught me that I'm supposed to do it.
Okay.
Right.
Well, when that time comes, simple.
By the
And
way,
I don't want to go into debt for, if a hotel out there wants to partner with us and
boom, there you go.
we
If
can
it's
do it
free.
on the roof if it's free, we'll make it look pretty and people can take the Instagrams. But screw like 200 people, like a guest list of every person you've ever known. No, that's not. They're just gonna eat all of the food that you paid for.
Right. If
I
I
want
buy all that
only-
food, I
yeah.
want to eat all of it and have saved it for 2 weeks to eat it afterwards.
Oh, so you just want to like buy a lot of food for
Same
you,
amount of food, definitely. Right, but all.
but just
vegan,
invite 20
and
people.
all vegan friendly.
Okay.
Is that going to be an interesting wedding?
No, I mean I like soy chicken nuggets
Right.
and stuff. Although who has chicken nuggets at wedding? We could have some fancy. See, I never think about like a dream wedding or anything, but
What would it be though?
my dream scenario would, because I've experienced putting on events. I've done Hustle and Why, which is like a networking party that we put on in New York with my friend Chris, and sometimes they're more lit than other times. And so I feel like a really cool way to do it is to just have a big party with like all of your friends and all the people like the night before, or like maybe the night after, or I don't know, or just the reception. Okay, here we go. I'm thinking through it right now.
Cool.
So maybe the reception is the party with a lot of people, but they don't have to be at the wedding. Would they get offended if they were only invited to the party but not the wedding?
Depends how fun we made the party.
That's true.
I
mean, the party could be lit. That's why I said like maybe it should be like a pre-party. So the wedding lit 200 people in one room with loud music and just like woo.
Right.
That party happens before the wedding, so we can just get that out of our system. And then the wedding can be a super tight-knit, like only 20 people, super just like us, our love.
Right.
That's the focus. And then we just go to a fancy restaurant after, like screw catering.
That would be awesome. And then we could move in with each other because then we wouldn't be living in sin.
Yes.
I don't really know how any of this works, but whatever. You get married to this guy that you're talking about. I'm assuming it's me.
Yes.
And then I guess we've already talked about this, but children. You're going to have children after that. I don't know how they're made, but...
A stork. You pick a stork from the store, from Petco.
Oh, you have to pick a stork? I feel like I thought there was one stork that delivered all, like Santa Claus.
Yes.
Okay.
So Santa Claus and the stork,
Oh, wow.
they work together.
That's a powerful
Yeah.
duo.
I mean, what do you think Santa's doing all the other times besides the 25th?
I thought
You think
he
he's
just slept.
dude, do you know how lazy that would be? I would have no respect
Well,
for
I
Santa
honestly,
Claus.
this is weird, but I thought for 364 days he just slept and built up energy, and then when he wakes up, because no other human does that. So the second he wakes up, he's like, "Ah!" and then he hits every house. As fast
No,
as
I
possible.
legitimately think the rest of the year he's helping delivering babies. So we've been talking about a lot of intense things.
I know. I'm trying to think of
John.
something more casual and fun because Sarah and I are pretty much laughing all day, every day.
I know, this wasn't a very funny podcast.
Well, I can mix it up a little.
Well, no, if you want more of the humor, sarcasm, then you can just watch one of our videos.
That's true.
They come to the podcast for the real and the raw and the squeaky chairs.
Exactly. My chair has been pissing me off the entire time. When I met SARA DIETSCHY, she didn't curse.
Really?
No,
Did I never?
I don't think you did at all.
You might have been the bad influence in my
I may
life.
have been. And that's the funny thing. I don't really curse in my videos. And here's why. By the way, I just got to give this out there.
Okay.
My brother Steven called me and he's like, hey, man, like, you know, my boy Weston, wish he could watch your videos. But unfortunately, I don't want him to learn all the cursing.
Yeah.
And I stopped cursing for my nephew.
Well,
in my
that's like a
videos.
very real thing. You have to acknowledge that that a lot of people view cussing as bad, and that's just like a reality that you have to deal with. So I've never cussed or put cussing in my content, but I think it was the moment that I met you too. You know, you just go on these rants.
I know.
And
It was
Jeannie, it's all John's fault.
It was in you the whole time, and I just helped it come
I mean,
out.
I would say the occasional bad word, because I've had frustrating circumstances with school.
I think when you get hurt too.
Or that
It makes
the
sense.
words fly in those
Right.
times. But
They fly so.
they fly. Yeah, you know, just you talking about it. And like they're just words.
I don't think
you know.
yeah. So
Like they're literally in terms of just the basic cuss words, like the S word and the D word and stuff.
Like SARA DIETCHY.
Yeah, there you
Oh,
go.
the S and the
nice,
D
nice,
word.
nice.
Give me some loving, dude.
No, I'm
Freaking give me some dap
okay,
right now.
there you go. There you go.
Cool.
In those cases, you know, they don't have some crazy ulterior meaning, you know? Like when it comes to words that have like a historically bad connotation, stay away, you know? But like cuss words, it's like, yeah, it's just like not culturally appropriate in some instances.
Right. It's
but
gross to some people.
Yeah,
That's
and so
all.
you have to respect that, and that's fine. But I think when it's like, I'm not a cursing sailor at all, but sometimes words slip, and I don't think I'm like a bad person for that.
Well, this conversation is really personal to me because my father really, really hates curse words.
Well,
He's
like
the best.
I'm sure, like my mom hates it too.
I know,
and I don't do it a lot.
Well, it bothers me because 40 years before now, there were different words that were curse words. Curse words.
Now they're
literally
not.
changed. Now they're not at all. Like when I was a kid, I couldn't say suck or butt. Those were considered curse words when I was a child.
And so it's weird that there's this like meter, and like the badness moves as you grow up and stuff.
And
which
man decides.
Yeah.
Or people decide.
Yeah.
Which really bothered that part really bothers me, that people are offended at me or they think I'm doing something wrong because people have decided that I shouldn't say something.
I think the only instance where like it actually, like, people can actually have some ground to stand on is like, okay, using the Lord's name in vain.
That
like,
makes sense, right?
God dang, you know, like, okay, I understand. Yeah, I understand that, but like,
because it's
just
a direct
the word,
disrespect towards somebody's religion or culture.
But just saying one word by itself that is just another word for dang it. How do you like belittle someone or think someone is a bad person just because
it happens,
they say that one word, you know?
Happens.
So it's like you have to be respectful of people who have those opinions, but at the same time, I think people can deploy a little bit more
empathy
towards certain,
right, because a lot of people will be ignored for having. See, this is the problem. People will use potty language, and their opinions and everything are sort of just disregarded. It's like, oh, well, he has a dirty mouth. And like some of the most intellectual people will give a statement that's brilliant, but they might have the F word in the middle of it, and then to automatically disregard. That's the problem with so many things and so many people, is that things are just immediately disregarded because somebody doesn't vibe with someone, or someone doesn't have a good vocabulary. Someone's just like, yeah, I don't know, walking, it's tight, whatever. But
if you can't hear what someone's saying,
if you can't
then it's like, and you can't understand. It's kind of like,
well, that's the thing. Well, some people are literally raised in communities where they're just talking like everyone around them, so they have this like slang, and then sometimes you can barely understand what they're saying. But if you listen deeply and like take what they say and really
also though at the same time you have to be accepting of the world, and also like if it's if it's in a business situation, you know, like traditionally, okay, tattoos are bad in some situations.
Yeah.
Cussing is bad in some situations. And if you're trying to sell something and you're in an environment where the customer's always right, guess what? If being yourself gets you fired, then that's how it is.
Yeah, you're free.
You know, so it's like
you're free to say what you want, but you're not free from consequences. Basically,
boom.
is what it is.
There you go.
So, because in Korea,
That's something.
right. In Korea, it's a thing to not have tattoos, and people see it as this bad thing, but it's like, come on, bro.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm half Korean. And did you ever think you would date an Asian guy?
I never like put like characteristics into like the guy. Like I never thought about the ideal guy. And to be honest, when I met you, nothing in my brain was like, it's time to find a boyfriend.
There's something that I just thought about that I never really thought about before, but you know, we're decent guides on the world of relationship and dating. I know it sounds strange, and you've actually have a podcast with Shan Booty, and she's an expert at
a
sex relationships or whatever.
Expert.
Right. But you know what? We've had a lot of luck, and I say this because in the past, I dated a few girls, and they all went horribly, horribly wrong. And they put my mind into the mindset that, oh, this stuff doesn't work. But when I would talk to friends about that, a lot of them would agree. They'd be like, yeah, I dated relationships, like, they might not work in the end, really.
Screw women.
Yeah, they were just like, dude, no,
They
like,
suck.
they're all, right. And they would do whatever guys and girls did. Like, girls and guys. They'd both be like, dude, relationships, guys are, girls are, That's always the thing. This is maybe your first serious relationship. Mm-hmm. And it seems to be going well. And in my world, since I've had very little experience, it's going very well. This relationship is awesome.
It is.
And it happened very quickly.
It did.
People don't understand
we
that
went
happened in, like,
very 0 to 100 very quickly.
it was intense.
I think it was like, well, yeah, within.
Should we talk about this? Yeah, right?
I mean,
I think it's interesting.
to a certain degree.
Right, I think it's interesting. So anyways, as the years went along, I was doing YouTube a lot, and then I was like, you know who I need to meet? That one girl, because now I feel like I have enough clout to reach out to her. And honestly, this sounds pathetic, but YouTube boosted my confidence.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. So I sent her a very professional email.
Yeah.
Extremely. Do you remember what it said?
Yeah. I mean, should we read it?
Oh, that's it. Okay, it's kind of crazy, actually.
All right. Subject line: hanging with a fellow YouTuber! Exclamation point. All right. So this was on November 22nd, 2016.
Wow.
Man.
Wow.
I know.
Okay, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Year and a half.
Yep. Hey there, Sarah! Exclamation point. My name is John Hill, comma. I'm a YouTuber, comma. And I'm reaching out with nothing prepared except to say I appreciate the heck out of what you do on YouTube. That's pretty good so far.
Yeah.
I'm taking a trip to New York kind of soon. Is that true at all?
It wasn't at all. I swear, I had no whatever preparation for that.
I'm taking a trip to New York kind of soon. I mean, that's a good trick, by the way, for collaborations and stuff. You just say, hey, I'm going to be in your area soon. Let's work this out.
And you just have to be willing to do it.
Yeah. And I would love to kick it and talk YouTube and filmmaking. And it would be great to collaborate in some way. Thanks for being awesome. And then you just linked your channel. So it was a very normal email, actually. But I think what stood out to me was it was just like, or made me respond, was it was short and snappy and to the point. And so I was like, okay, here's this link. So I'm just going to click on the link. And I clicked on that link. And I was like, he has a lot of subscribers. Let's hang out. No, I thought you were very, very cute from that moment of us sitting in that restaurant in Venice. And I wasn't fully aware that you were a vegan. And so you just like order this random thing on the menu. And it turned out to be a side dish that was literally just potatoes.
It was a side dish. I think it was one of their main dishes.
It was literally like, so I got this big sandwich and I'm pretty sure I gave you half of it.
You did.
And you just like saved it for later because I'm pretty sure it wasn't vegan.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because I didn't know at that point
that
you were, or maybe you were a veg. I don't know. But like, I felt so bad. I was like, oh my God, have half of my sandwich. And you're just like, thank you so much. And you were like polite enough to keep it, and you just boxed it up because you were probably like, oh, I can't eat this. So yeah, at the moment, that was, I think, the first time that we laughed really hard together.
Yeah, you were laughing so excessively hard that I was like, I don't think I've ever made anyone laugh this hard. And it was at my expense.
Yeah, that's true. Because it's like, it was a fancy Venice restaurant, and this dish sounded so fancy. And then the waiter came out and just put a plate of potatoes in front of you. And I was like, is that all that you ordered? And you were so confused because, like, you didn't know. You thought it was more than that. And you were just like, oh.
I was so intimidated meeting you. It was insane.
Really?
Well, yeah, before I met you, not only did you make good content, but in your videos, you were like, you got a Casey Neistat shout out. And then I would randomly see like Ben Brown, Louis Cole, and I'm like, who is this human? How is she collaborating? Basically all my favorite YouTubers at the time, all the travel vloggers. And I was like, and I just never thought of myself as someone who could ever bring any value to them or you even. So I was kind of like, is it even worth trying to get into this?
Which you got to get in that mentality of like, even if you're not, you are, and just put yourself in those positions. And that's what you did with me. And
I did, but
the snowball
effect affected.
Yeah, the snowballed.
And I still struggle with that to this day of being like, oh, I don't know. But a lot of people do. A lot of people are like, I don't really know if it's worth it. Even though I feel like most people have the opposite problem, where it's like, I'm way more valuable than I can't bring any value to this person. But anyways, we met, and it was hilarious because when I pulled up, I never met anyone who was like me. Like in the way that I work, I've always been very eccentric about it. And it's been in the beginning of my YouTube channel. You can go all the way back, and the people who watch it, they're always like, how do you, like, why do you do this to yourself? And it's like, I genuinely enjoy the process of like working all day, the way that you enjoy editing. Because a lot of people, when you hear that, like editing, it almost sounds like a chore. It's like, oh, you have to edit for 5 hours. But like when I get in the flow of it, when you get in the flow of it, it's like,
it's just, yeah.
Right. And when I pulled up to that restaurant, Sarah was literally outside on her laptop. Her laptop was on her suitcase, like working. And like most people, when you meet them,
I had to get a video up, guys.
Dude, it's crazy because when you meet anyone though, they're sitting down, they're ready for you. They're just like, hey, how are you? Like, it's just all proper. And for it to be that loose, I was like, okay, cool. And then I started like letting my guard down a little. And then I think when I met you, I was just shy, so I was kind of like, and then you started laughing hysterically.
Super cute.
Thanks.
I mean, I think that's the first thing that we bonded on was just humor.
Right. And then I immediately went for it. So with the video that I made, I basically filmed Sarah a lot that day. And then I just put like this like super artsy, like happy song to like a montage of you. Yeah. And it was basically my subtle way of being like, because I don't know how to be like, what's up, girl?
No, your subtle way was flirting with me indirectly in the comments and being like, someone would comment and be like, ooh, does John have a crush? And you would comment on that comment. Yes.
Yeah.
And you were so indirect with me that I only had those like vibes to pick up that you were giving everyone else. But I was like, she should just like give me something. Like,
yeah, but I was still very scared at the time of those things. Cause I mean, anyone who gets out of a relationship, they're always just like, this is pointless. None of this will work ever. So even when I did it, it was like,
it was like lighthearted.
Right. In my head, I was like, oh, it's going to be fun to flirt again. That's all. I was like, it's going to be fun to flirt. But there was one day I was talking to somebody else about it, and I was just like, yeah, dude, like, she's not interested. Based on nothing. I was just like, dude, she's not trusting.
Okay,
like,
so this is the thing with John is he gets way in his head, and whether it was with me in the beginning or friendships, he will think that people don't like them when they, like, adore you. So.
I still, and I've realized, like, it's almost funny because some part of me is like, I should work on that and think that people like me, but it almost feels like a lost cause. Like, that sounds really sad. I didn't mean it like that, but it's in my head. I'm like, I don't think I can convince myself that like people adore me. I could think of them like,
well, yeah, I mean that would be like weird,
and I'm scared to.
But just having the, you know, you don't have to be like full of yourself, but having the confidence or. Yeah, just like the self-confidence to going boldly into situations.
Right, and there's so many things that I've also learned from you as an awesome human. But like one thing is, I would base a lot of, oh, people probably don't like me because I look different. That was a big thing when I was a kid.
Well, that's how you grew up. Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
I was like, oh, people treat me different because I look different. They don't really want to be my friend. That's fine. And then like when you move to California, you're like, oh, everybody looks like me. Like this place is a third Asian almost. And then I got into like, but I'm a skater, dude. No one understands a skater, man. Like we have real struggles. You don't understand. And then to see like Sarah, like, so people who have those struggles, I think like minorities and people who just feel lost or disconnected, like skateboarders, they very much empathize with anyone who might feel inadequate in some way. So I see like Sarah, this like female who's dominating this sphere. That's when I was kind of like, how's she do it? Like she doesn't look like she has a single mad bone in her body. She's like, oh, I'm just out here killing it. Ain't no big thing. Like nobody's against me. That's like, that was one big jump in my confidence of being like, well, if she can do it, well, freaking hot dang it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we basically just like, I'm sure it was weird because I'm sure a lot of people close to you, like your family, know how intense you are in a lot of ways. Like I'm sure you've probably heard like, oh, maybe you should just like relax, calm down a little bit. And I've been hearing that forever. I remember my first time getting drunk. It was very odd.
You know, I've never been drunk in my life, guys. And I want it to happen once, but just in a safe environment. So like with you or something.
Right. We could just sit here and just drink till we're drunk.
And I legit, I totally wrecked your story. Continue your story.
I was just going to say that my first time getting drunk, my friends, they never felt like they could open up to me because I was so intense. Like with skating, I was literally like, we're going to go out all day for 9 hours. We're going to light up spots. I have the generator lights. I've saved up for it. We're going to go out. And they're like, oh, but yeah, we have this thing we want to go to. And I'm like, why would you waste your life there? Like I would tell them that. So my first time drinking, they finally had this window. And I just kept going like, I'm like, I work too hard, right? And they're like, yeah. Yeah, and they were like, yeah, you really do need to relax. They kept saying that, like, you need to really calm down as a human. You take things too serious. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. But nothing changed. Like the next morning I wake up and I'm like, we got to work 24/7. Come on, guys, let's go outside.
Work.
And you are honestly the first person I've ever met that has that exact intensity. You are this. I think a lot of people will see that you work really hard, but you're very intense too. You're also, I think, a lot sillier than people think too. But you're very. I mean, you're pretty silly. In your videos.
Yeah, it is weird to think about, because you know I'm a multifaceted human being like everyone. But it was weird after I made the Casey parody video. I watched back and I cringed so hard. Like, I don't even think it's a good video now. I'm talking. I don't have the confidence to project like a normal human. When I was in the co-working space that I was filming in, I was nervous about people being in other rooms. So I was quiet. I like talked like this. I didn't like talk like a normal Sarah. Like, this is me. What's up, guys? Yeah. But that video that put me on the map that everyone saw was essentially a comedy video. And so humor, I sometimes forget that humor is like a big part of me. And when I'm doing these like tech videos that can actually be like very boring, I have to remember like, yo, you're Sarah, like make things light and fun. That's I think what makes me unique is that it's not like a normal video. And I think, you know, I think that is a unique thing that I can bring, that yes, I'm intense and I love to work, but also like if people could be a fly on the wall in the rooms that we're in just together, they would be so shocked just how silly we are. Oh my gosh. 24/7. I mean, and then, you know, when people watch your videos and you just riff with Dale for 10 minutes, guys, like that's not just for the video. Like that is their life. And that is, I feel like, our life a lot of just like riffing and being funny and stuff. And so,
and it's hard to capture that because when you
sometimes
turn on the camera,
exactly. Sometimes you have to remind yourself like who you are off camera to really be who you want to be on camera, to reflect the, you know, like the real you. Like right now, this has been a relatively serious conversation, and that's one side of me, but we're about to go like watch a movie and be goofy and just like blah, blah, blah. And so I think like something that you can take, like something meaningful that you can take away of me blabbering for the past 3 minutes is when you're watching someone online and you form an opinion, a very like single faceted opinion on them, and then you feel compelled to make a comment about that or something. Just understand that like people are very complex. Everyone's going through something. Just because they're one way one day doesn't mean that like that's the full them. And Yeah, I mean, like you say, just like deploying empathy, I think is one of the most important things, period, that you can do as a human.
Oh, and the other lesson is to be true to yourself, because you're talking about the one video that really, really exploded was a comedy video, and you are a funny person. And the thing is, like, I feel the same way you do, where I'm sure sometimes when you're making a tech serious video, you feel sort of compelled to give more facts than silliness. And, you know, we've worked with brands before that have actually asked to be more like, oh, say more facts and stuff. But overall, the things that have worked best for us is just like being as silly and goofy as we are. That's the unique perspective. But also, since you're in the tech world, the other thing that you bring to these videos is that you go out and about. Nobody else really does that. You're like out in the streets.
Well, that's kind of like the vlogging side of things that I try to bring, because I hated just straight up daily vlogging. So
why is that? Just too intense?
It was just, it was too much. And like, I thrive when I go out and I go get a story, and I have something in mind, and I go get it, I go film it. And I can't just wake up on a boring day. Like today, I need to film something, but at the same time, like if I think that another time would work, I'm just going to do it at that time.
That's good.
And I don't want to be held to like a daily grind of something.
Right. That's the hardest thing about YouTube is the difference of feeling like that you need to put out content consistently and then giving yourself some room. But right now, in this day and age, it's 2046 right now, something like that. Do you think that people have a good chance of becoming financially successful on this platform as an individual? Like just one person, like how we are?
Rolling in the dough.
Yeah.
So much money. We're rich.
Oh, yeah.
We have so much.
It's insane. No, but just like having, just making a living.
Yeah.
Like we're able to, at least minimum wage, basically, is what I'm saying.
Yes. Yeah, I think there's always room. And I think if you have a unique niche, you can use YouTube. Maybe it's not like your sole platform, but I think it's always worth it to be, if you make videos and you love making videos, I think it is 100% worth it to pour some energy into it. It's a very saturated platform. It is. But we've seen Peter McKinnon and Mango Street rise up in the past year. We've seen new vlogging channels really like take over. We've seen channels like Cody Co really explode. And so I think there's always room, but you also have to be more practical with yourself as time goes on, really evaluate the landscape of places and understand, like just like Casey said in a recent video, you're competing with massive companies who have 5 editors who are putting up 10 videos a day on channels, and people who this is already our job, that we're posting consistently or posting at a certain rate and already have an existing audience. So it is more difficult now because you're competing with a lot of people for attention, and attention is so spread out nowadays. I mean, so spread out. Everyone isn't watching ABC when Modern Family's on. Some people are watching Modern Family, but some people are watching PewDiePie, and some people are watching Casey Neistat, and some people are watching Zoella, and some people are on Twitch streams, and some people are scrolling on Instagram. Like, it is insane the amount of options people have on where to put their attention and in terms of content. And so I think the biggest thing is, are you going to offer something so compelling or so different or so ordinary that it's super relatable that people are going to watch you?
How much of a factor do you think luck is?
I hate the word luck, but I would say serendipity has a lot to do with it, which I think they're totally different. I love the saying, I think it's by like a golfer dude or something. The harder you work, the luckier you get. The more places you are, the more videos you make, the more pictures you take, the more websites you build, the more hands you shake, the more conferences you go to, the more you travel, the more serendipity is going to have a major role in your life.
I will say this, though. I'll say in these situations, if every person did the exact same thing, there would be different results, though.
Yeah.
So if you, I, Peter, Casey, if we all did exactly the same thing, we'd all have different results. That's the thing. I think we'd all get success if we're all always, yes, let's do this, and we put ourselves in the right situations.
That's why, I mean, everyone's so unique, and they know what their limits are and what works for them. So you have to play into your strengths.
What do you think your biggest strength is?
I think my biggest strength is something that I actually had to train myself to do.
What's that?
And I think my biggest strength is talking to people and talking to people I don't know. Because I think having the confidence to go and do that has like fundamentally changed my life and led me to opportunities that I wouldn't have today. But that is something that I practiced. That is not something that came naturally to me. And it happened every single weekend when I played guitar at my church. Our worship leader dude, Derek, shout out to Derek, he would get mad at us if we were chilling in the green room before service. He's like, why are you talking to your friends that you can talk to at any point when there's a ton of new people out in the atrium waiting to come in that could be our next guitar player or could be just a cool person to hang out with, or maybe it's their first time and they're scared and you can be a friendly face. And it took so many weekends just like really shaking in my boots and being like, what do you mean you want me to go up to a random person, shake their hand and start asking them questions? Are you mad? Like, I was like a 16-year-old when this idea came about, like 15, 16-year-old. Like, what? Who does that? And I would start like giving myself a certain number of people. I'd be like, okay, the service, I'm going to go up to 3 people and I'm going to have a 5-minute conversation with each of them. And I think that's what led to, honestly, like me being able to interview people and having conversations on and off camera with people, but also just like meeting awesome new people. And it comes in handy when you're at conferences, or maybe you're at like a networking thing, or you're just on the set, or it's like a super beneficial thing to have and to make people feel comfortable around you and to connect with people. But it's something that so didn't come naturally. It's something that I had to definitely work at.
Yeah, because a lot of people, they talk about how okay it is to be an introvert. And how that can work really well in your favor. And I do agree, but
a lot of times it's just people being lazy and not getting uncomfortable.
I think a lot of people do confuse that. I think a lot of people think like,
I'm an introvert.
Right. It's because you build energy off
by being alone.
That's the only thing that introvert means. But that's where you'll find the most serendipity, is meeting other people and talking to them, and then taking the effort to do that, because you're not always in a church environment or a school environment. And a lot of times in school, you can be intimidated for good reason. You could be like, well, they might be a jerk to me.
And sometimes in school, those people don't matter. Like, screw those guys.
But I think there should be, I think there should be a practice.
Those should be skills that they're teaching in school.
Right. There's so many skills that should be teaching in school.
There should be a tax class. There should be a blah, blah, blah.
Well, that'd be my advice, is like someone like me who feels like I'm okay with my inner circle. I don't need nothing else. What I did with Sarah is a good example of, maybe if you're not, you didn't work as hard as Sarah when you were younger and you're older, and you're like, okay, well, I didn't do that when I was a kid, so what do I do now? It's like, well, you're still going to have to do what she did as a kid. And when she was a kid, she was terrified. When I was emailing you, I was terrified. And it's like, you do have to make that attempt. And like, even right now today, I'm always like, all right, what's the only thing I can do? Because I'm too scared to be like hitting up big timers, but I just do it. Send them an email. It gets less intimidating the more you do it. After the Sarah thing, I was like, who else can I hit up? Because this obviously worked pretty well.
This worked out.
I was like, is this always how it goes? Because I'm about to have a bunch of new best friends. Maybe some more girlfriends.
Excuse me?
Nothing. You're very, very practical in a way, but when it comes down to like YouTube and moving forward, maybe it just happens to you very naturally because you're so excited that you're just like, what's next? And you keep everything. But there's also the whole like, what's next? And then you forget what you're doing. You put it away too soon, and then you start working on something else. You're like, oh crap, where's that other thing? Oh crap, and everything starts falling around you. But you're really good at being like, I'm a YouTuber. I love YouTube. And then even when I talk to you, you're like, oh yeah, YouTube. I'm a YouTuber. But I'm like, oh wait, you've also built like 15 things while you've built this channel. You have a podcast that's actually really successful. You've interviewed tons of amazing human beings.
Oh yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, that was it.
I think that's something that I've also practiced throughout my entire life. Like, I didn't just like straight up not go to college, because after high school I had no idea what I wanted to do in life. So what's a good place to learn what you want to do in life? College. But I had a scholarship, so I basically went for free. I stayed at home, saved money. So for those years, I did not drop out until I saw a little glimmer of hope. It did take risk, but when I saw a future in video and I saw that as a possibility, that's when I dropped out.
Cool. I think a lot of people who are interested in video, if you're trying to think of your way in there, this is more of a practical question as well. But a lot of my friends, they respect what you do because you get to work with a lot of brands. And the thing about that is it's not just like that you get to make money, because that's cool. But being close with people who run big brands is very inspiring in the sense that in the future you can talk to them about it. You can be like, I want to start a brand. Yo, person who runs AT&T, how you do this?
Although a lot of times it's the agencies. So
Right.
if I ever want to start a creative agency, which essentially I have with myself, but
Yeah.
if ever I want to do that, I'll have people to talk to. But usually that's what people don't know. It's not, I would say, our toilet just went crazy. I would say 30 or 40% of the time it's the brand reaching out directly, but the rest of the time it's an agency in between doing the project. So you're talking with the agency people. But yeah, it's awesome. It's really cool. What was the question? I'm sorry.
There wasn't a question yet. The question was going to be, so a bunch of my friends, well, they see that. They go, how does she work with whatever, the biggest brands? What's a few brands that you've worked with recently?
I would say
Honda,
AT&T, Adobe.
Best Buy.
Yeah, Adobe, Best Buy, Canon,
You've worked with like
Sony.
30 plus brands at this point, right?
I feel maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when my friends, so a part of me gets angry, but a part of me empathizes with my friends.
Squarespace. I'm pretty proud of Squarespace because I tried to get a Squarespace sponsorship for so long, and all of my friends were getting it, and I wasn't. And I finally got it.
And
guys.
you're competitive, so you're gonna get it. I was even getting them before Sarah, and I was like,
I was
in your
literally-
face, loser.
I was literally like, I am holding out for Squarespace. Wix was reaching out.
Wix was
And
reaching
I was
out?
like,
I didn't get that.
no Wix. I'm holding out for Squarespace because that's what I would actually use if I had a website. And now I'm building a website.
Oh, it's amazing. My friends are always like, dude, like, and part of me wants to slap them in the face, but part of me empathizes with them. That's what I was saying. Because they're like, how does Sarah get all this, dude? Like, because I have friends who will get a lot of views on videos, but brands never reach out to them.
Yeah.
What's the difference? How come they
I
aren't?
think my edge is I am so brand friendly. Like, I don't cuss. My entire thing on my channel is like embracing creativity and technology to live your best life. I think that is so marketable. And you can sell stuff against that. Like,
Right.
technology is a big part of that. And so tech brands have money, and so they can afford these really cool opportunities. That's my favorite part about working with brands is often you get the chance to do stuff that you wouldn't be able to without the brand, right? And I'm in a very unique situation where I am a woman in tech, and I am a woman in a space that is a lot of dudes. So when agencies are filling out their roster for a job and they see that they have all dudes, hopefully the thought is like, oh, maybe we should have one girl in this, that's not the case for everything, but for more of the, whether it's a phone company or blah, 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 blah. I think a lot of times they choose me for my skill because I do make good videos. I tell a story. I'm confident in that.
Your resume is impeccable.
Thank you.
People don't know that.
I have a history of making good videos, but also interviewing people and being a presence with anyone. So it's not just because like I'm the right person, right time, but that is a piece of it.
Well, what I was going to say, it's the same thing with anything that you do. So skateboarding, a big thing is to get sponsored. And people will ask, how do you get sponsored? They haven't started skating yet, but they're wondering how they can get sponsored. And the thing is, well, if you're a good skateboarder, you can kind of show them that you're good enough for them to invest money into you, then of course that's it. It's like business, what a lot of people don't know, is really common. It's common sense. Yeah. But when you see so many people succeeding, your brain,
you want the finish line without the work in between.
Right. Your brain shuts down, and then I'm going to be rash. You become stupid. And then you're like, how do I get the thing? And it's like, my friends who reach out to me, I'm like, if a company asks, can I see something that is a good example of what a company like us would want? Can you send it over? They would have nothing to send. Mm-hmm. Literally nothing. Yep. And then I think it's important to create the kind of content that is probably better than the stuff that they've put out before. Mm-hmm. So if you see a commercial from a brand, try to make a better commercial.
And you want to start making the stuff that you think these brands would attach themselves to.
Exactly.
If that is the route you take. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to monetize content online. So I think we do have we have options. But I think your best option, if you make really good stuff that's also relatable and there's personality attached to it, I think that's a really good edge that you can have with working with brands. And you know, I don't have like all the answers as to why all these things are happening, but I feel like I've kind of hit the jackpot with all the sick brands that I get to work with. And I have been rewarded, I think, or not rewarded, I've been like #blessed with a really cool audience that understands that like that's how I make my YouTube channel work, and that's how I get to make these docu-series that I'm making.
Well, the class makes sense as well. You're selling things that they could actually
exactly
use to make the kind of things that you make.
And I'm in a position now, and honestly, I mean, I haven't mentioned this at all, but the Adobe Creative Residency is what set me up just a year of pursuing my passion projects without worrying about money. Having that year to just create and build what I've built and make those connections, and having a year to like say no to everyone, allowed me then to, after the fact, have my options and be able to say yes only to the people that I actually would love to work with and that I actually use their products. And like, you know, recently with Honda, like a Honda Element is the like the only car that I've ever owned. And like my two brands in that sphere, like I would love, you know, Honda, Epic, if they want to work with me again, so down. But then my like dream car is like a Land Rover, so working with like Range Rover, Land Rover. And I think it's cool to like have these brands that I'm checking off. That's really cool. But then also aspire to brands that I want to seek out and stuff. So it's fun. I don't know, I think everyone does it differently.
Yeah, and I think that people who make commercials and ads, a lot of it will do it a certain way, and it ends up not really paying off. And I think a lot of the brands pay for our numbers, etc. But in this case with you, it's not numbers. They do pay for that. They pay for the fact that you do have an audience, but they're actually hiring you to do the real work that they would hire a company
and like
to do.
What a lot of people don't know is I still do like freelance work almost. Like I just did 6 or 7 videos for Adobe that they're just using on their socials. Why'd
you say yes to that?
Because that was actually fun. That was with the residents, the new creative residents, and they actually wanted me in the video as a interviewer, which is cool, but it's for their socials. But I have another gig coming up actually this summer. That's the first one like this in a very long time that I was actually like, heck yeah to, because I haven't done something like this in a while. But it's just me behind the camera doing a recap video of an event that I'm not in at all. So it's just like good old times of SARA YouTube in like 2013. That's all I used to do is make like event recaps and, you know, recaps of weddings and stuff. And I was never in it. So, you know, I do those from time to time, and that's kind of fun because you're just the video person.
Right. So it seems like if you're focused and if you're not super egotistical, you can quickly figure out how to monetize something that you love. So for you, like we've explained the steps so far, it's literally like you worked hard at making content that was pretty much, in my opinion, better than content companies are making. Mm-hmm. A lot of your interview type stuff, your documentary stuff were so professionally well done.
And it's not even that, like I didn't have the best cameras or anything, but during that time that was unique. Like not a lot of people were highlighting the creative process. I was like, now everyone has a podcast or a show interviewing someone, or that's always been a thing, period. But like the creative process hasn't always been like so exposed and stuff. And that's kind of what my edge was in the beginning. I think so many people do that now, but I think you have to also have a unique thing. Yeah.
And with you, another thing, I'm kind of just bragging for you a lot, but like you did a Best Buy deal recently where you made a 1-minute-long Instagram video, 1 minute. And I think most people in that scenario would be like, well, I can make a 10-minute video almost every day on YouTube. I can make a 1-minute video in 45 minutes. The 1-minute video was footage spanned over a week, a whole week.
A few days.
Yeah.
And it took a minute to kind of like, I say concept it out, but just kind of understand the storyline of it and stuff.
And
what would work on Instagram.
Right. And that's what you have to think about so many different factors. And this is the ego thing just comes in and kills you, because you'll be like, I'm proud of this thing that I made, blah, blah, blah. But you do, if you want it to blow up and go around, you do have to think about what people might want to see in a sense.
And also understand like, oh, it's Instagram. How do I consume Instagram videos? Half the time I don't put on the volume.
Right.
So I need to kind of like set aside the whole, oh, but it's prettier without subtitles, and put fudging subtitles on the video.
Yeah, I think rationally what you would consume if you were going to make a video that you yourself would see, stop, be like, oh, whoa, because a lot of people will.
It was a cool product. So I already had that to my advantage, but then it's like, okay, why are people actually sit there and watch it?
Right, and people complain about clickbait. I've complained about clickbait, but then it's like I'm on the video commenting, dude, why'd you have to clickbait? And it's like, oh, because I'm on the video commenting. And the thing about the Best Buy, a lot of people could probably try to make a commercial for Best Buy, but that video exploded. So there was clearly a lot of insight on what people were going to like, and you knew how to make the video for the brand the way that it needed to be, because that commercial was recommended to all of my friends. Has over
3 million views now.
Has over 3 million views.
And to be fair, Best Buy probably Canon put a lot of money behind it on Instagram. But
why would they though?
But yeah, that and those videos. Thank you. Those videos don't do that well unless they have like some legs to stand on. So like, props to them for having a dope product. Props for me for having a sick video. Props to them having money to give that advertising push.
Right. So we're saying basically the steps to get to where you want, or this is what I'm saying. It seems a lot more intimidating than it is, because if you're thinking now and you watch Sarah's videos, you might be like, how, dude, I'm never going to be able to work with Best Buy. That's like a whole different world. That's what I would have said, right? And now being around you, it's like, oh, very practical steps, like move forward, where you're like, this will do well for this. This will do well for this. And you were like, I'll make good videos. So right off the bat, good videos that companies would want. You close the gap immediately. And that's something that I think a lot of people maybe don't see, because there's so much involved and it just seems so crazy and it's hard to understand. But sometimes it is that simple. And I think just to use common sense along the whole way with business works the best. And with growing and with YouTube as well, the reason my channel grew so fast wasn't because I was like, I'm going to try to make something super unique and different and cross my fingers. It was, I'm going to work really hard to make something unique and different, but I'm also going to do this every day. I'm also going to collaborate with 100. I did more, like 100 collaborations my first year. That's something a lot of people don't do on YouTube. And they ask me, how do I grow on YouTube? I'm like, well, you kind of just have to be practical. Like, if you have someone with 1 million subscribers saying, go subscribe to him, you're going to get subscribers. That's it. And I don't know if that's good or bad to just get subscribers who aren't super loyal, who didn't grow organically, but if you want to grow, that's how you do it.
Yeah, you have to collaborate with people. And I think that's in any field.
Right. What's the next step? Because right now everything's working awesomely. You're working with brands and you're doing all this cool stuff, and a normal-minded person would just be like, I'm going to continue to do this. Mm-hmm. Do you have a normal mind?
I'll continue. I'll continue on this path as much as I can, because I am having fun and it's cool, like living a cool life. But I think I just want to keep building and growing something that like, who knows, but it would be cool to have something that is a little bit less reliant on myself and like my face. And
already thinking
I'll always like be sharing stories in every way possible. But yeah, just building something that's not completely reliant on my face.
I like that. Well, I think that you're going to have to do that. I think everyone's going to have to do that too. And one thing to prepare people for is the longevity of all this, and to say that when you think of all your favorite celebrities and what they're doing, it's very usually, 99.7% of the time, people aren't super, super famous forever.
You have to keep growing.
Right.
You have to keep changing it up.
Exactly.
And,
Like Zach Braff in Scrubs when it came out, probably the most famous he's ever been.
Yeah.
And that's okay that didn't have that version of the success forever, because one, it's impossible to have the same version of success forever, but you can expand on other things. I'm sure he started
I'm sure Liza Koshy will be as famous as she is forever. She'll probably somehow get more famous.
Well, that's the thing too with someone like Liza Koshy. Yeah, you're right, but it's a different kind of famous now, because she's not just going to be a famous YouTuber forever. She's in YouTube and she as well as she was doing, didn't invest everything into YouTube. She was like, I'm going to be a Nickelodeon star. I'm going to interview everyone at the Met Gala for Vogue. She expanded it immediately.
MTV, Nickelodeon.
Expanding your...
She's
your,
my hero.
your
She's
reach.
everyone's hero.
She is. And same with like Carly Kloss. It's like Carly Kloss, world famous model. Oh, wait. Started a school that has expanded to 25 different cities. And like...
Summer camps. Yeah.
Exactly. And like if you are someone who can build something initially... I think you should take full advantage of that because the pursuit, what I've learned, is the fun part. And reaching your goals, great, but you have to constantly keep pursuing. That's the point, is to stay excited. And when you finally reach your goal, you kind of lose that excitement. So Liza wasn't like, I'm going to be the world's most famous YouTuber. She's just like, I want to grow. I want to keep pursuing. That's what made her happy. And I think that's what makes her excited and why she keeps doing what she does.
Doesn't make her happy anymore.
Oh, Snezzle.
Just kidding. Liza, David, let's hang out.
It was fake.
Yeah.
And the coolest part about our relationship is that, like, we didn't break up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they did and we didn't.
I haven't told them yet.
You told everyone else that you're breaking up with and you haven't told me?
Can we talk about this after?
Yeah, sure. Even though we're married now anyways.
Yeah,
So
we have
it's
2
gonna make a
children.
good title for this podcast. Has it been long enough?
Oh, yeah, honey. It's been 2 hours,
Okay,
and our movie that we're seeing is going to start in 15 minutes.
I can't wait. And my armpits smell because it's been a long day. Guys, if you want to check out anything Sarah does and you haven't
you're
yet.
Sweaty, too.
Yeah, it'd be surprising if you haven't seen it. It'd be surprising if you haven't seen any of her stuff yet, but Sarah Dietschy's channel is amazing. Her podcast is amazing. Everything she's doing is amazing. She's going to be growing constantly, fast. And you know what? I'll be doing the same. So if you haven't already subscribed to this podcast, do that. If you haven't already subscribed
Smash
to my
that
YouTube channel, do the same thing. Go check out everything and then also check out progressdaily.earth. Sarah has a really good channel. Anyways.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, all the links in the description. If you want to see the clips from this, it'll be on the YouTube channel.
I just picked my nose.
Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.
That was like a Sarah bye. Bye.